Exactly. So, all right, let's start off. What are the steps to home ownership? So, coming here, like Mike said, this is great, especially for you guys who, have some time and you're wanting to wait a little bit. But even for those of you who aren't, if y'all are ready today, coming to a class like this really helps. I didn't do one. I wish I had done one. There were so many things I didn't know going into my first home purchase. But yeah, no, this is a great first step. Next would be to go ahead and get your pre-approval from a mortgage broker like Mike. So you would contact them and go ahead and get qualified. And we'll go through those qualifications here in just a little bit. Once you get your pre-qualification or pre-approval, then, we're ready to go and start looking for a home. That approval is going to tell us about how much you guys are approved for, what kind of terms, what kind of payment, well, not payments, but that'll really help narrow our search so that, you don't fall in love with a home that's $1 million. Although, if you want to get there, let's do it. But this will just really help. And then after that, once we find a home that you really do love, we're going to go in and make an offer and negotiate some things. Right now, personally, I've had a lot of really good success with negotiations, especially in this market. Um, I highly suggest, especially if you're renting, this is a great time for, in my opinion, for buyers. You can always refinance later on. So, rates are almost irrelevant just because, you are going to have that opportunity later in the future. But right now, you're not having to bid 50 grand over list price. And that's so big because a year ago, those people who bid that way, who purchased homes that way, um, even when it's time to, if they get the opportunity to refinance later, they can't lower what they purchased the house for. That is set in stone. That is, they paid $400,000 for a $300,000 house. Even when they refinance, their total is still at 400. Granted, of course, you get equity and whatnot, but that's the one thing that's good about now is, buyers have the opportunity not to have to go in so aggressively. Anyways, so once we go ahead and negotiate a contract, we're gonna hope that it gets accepted. Once it gets accepted, we're gonna do some home inspections. I highly suggest doing a home inspection. It's definitely up to the buyer, but I would probably never suggest moving forward with that one. That's going to give us so much information, and it's going to give us more of a baseline to negotiate even further. What needs to be fixed? What do we need? Uh, what's it called? Compensation for to have fixed. So yeah, so that's just another way to negotiate even further. And
Let,
then
let me
we
let me
go
throw in
ahead.
on that too. The
Yeah.
inspection, the return on investment on an inspection is tenfold in most cases. So what happens is you're going to go in and have some really smart person that knows all about houses to tell you exactly what needs to happen to make that house or to keep it from going bad on you. And then you go and you negotiate to get those things fixed, but you get the money off the price to do that. So it's a huge investment, and I really think you're silly to not have a home inspected. Unless you've been living there, that's the only reason I would say that you don't need an inspection.
Yep. Yep. And you're so right about it being tenfold. Um, I know I have someone right now who, went from $5,000 concessions to almost 20.
Wow.
Um, and that's just because she had an inspection done and there were things that they didn't want to fix. So we needed them to take care of them in some way. So we're getting it in the form of compensation. Um,
Yeah, and the
so
inspection was like 450 or $500, something like
yep.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Typically, and sometimes even less. Sometimes I've seen them as low as about 375-ish.
Yeah, depending on the
Yeah,
size of the
about 450, $500. Um, and then of course, then we move on to financing and you'll finalize your financing with Mike. And um, he'll walk you through that finalization process. Then you sign, we schedule a time for you to sign. You're going to sign on the dotted line, and then the house is yours. You get to move in, you get the keys, and start your new life building this equity in your newest investment.